Hello, Allison Ziegler here. I am tuning in live from Miami, Florida for today's episode of Princess Interrupted. Thank you so much for joining me. This week, we're going to be talking specifically about using travel as a catalyst for manifestation. This is one of my favorite topics to teach on. I have a bundle I created called Manifest, Leap, and Discover, the Ultimate Travel Bundle. This is something I created back when I was in Greece. So I decided in honor of this podcast, it would be a really exciting opportunity to offer a discounted rate on that bundle. So that's typically priced at $97 through the end of October 2024. You'll be able to get that at $55. So that bundle is live. I'll include a link to it in the show notes. If you're interested in this kind of travel content, I have so many more insights, hacks, details that I would love to share with you. Let's dive in. I am here in the beautiful Dua Hotel. This is like a 5-star hotel. And the manifestation of how this even came to be is quite interesting. One of the best areas of my life that I'm able to manifest with such ease that I can really help you with manifesting is travel. It's always come so easily to me. With coming to Miami, this was planned for the Taylor Swift Eras Tour. With my sister and my cousin and my cousin's friend.
Smile! Yeah.
We bought these tickets a very long time ago. We got them with pre-sale. And I just felt fully immersed in gratitude that I was even able to have this experience, that it was able to happen by the beach, that it was able to happen in the way that it was. I hope you enjoyed my little live excerpts from the concert. But in addition to using manifestation as a catalyst for your future manifestations, another thing that I'm really good at is manifesting free travel. But if you're more interested in how to manifest free travel, that is going to be found in the Ultimate Travel Bundle. But I will say, high level, if this is something that you're interested in working with, it's saying yes to the opportunities and finding a way. If something truly feels so aligned for you, if it truly means like an experience you're meant to have, the universe will help you to make it happen. With this trip, I ended up manifesting a lot of free elements to it, but it really was because it was a soul aligned desire. So for me, in the examples that I share, it ends up being points, but I've manifested free travel in so many other ways, random things, but I touch more on this in the program. When I went to New York the day before I left for Miami, hotel rooms were like $500. Even for the cheapest hotel that is usually $170, it was over $400, not even counting resort fees. I ended up finding my Hilton rewards account and all these points that I had from my days in tech that I didn't even know that I had. And I was able to book a room and get it for $90, which was the ultimate blessing. The flight that I booked was also with points that were with American, an airline I haven't flown with for years, and they were set to expire. These were all on a deadline, use it or lose it points. And then we came down to downtown Miami. And this is when the trip got interesting because my sister had booked a hotel near Miami Beach. And it seemed fine from the listing, but when we got there, it was like a party hotel. The music was so loud that you could hear it in the room, and it's like that Miami, like, just like nonstop. And it was above a restaurant, so it was just like sound from both directions. My sister was just like, I can't do this. So we were like, okay, let's go to the pool. Let's go to the beach. We went to the beach. There were just a ton of kids at the beach. The weather was just like, there were clouds everywhere. There wasn't even sun. It was warm, but it was like not super nice. We went and tried to find something to eat, and we got our poke bowls and went up to the rooftop of the hotel. And the music was a 10 out of 10 volume. I took this video where we're just sitting, it's completely empty, and then there's just loud house music just blaring. We went down and she was just like, I want to get out of this reservation. Like, I want to stay somewhere else. So she found a hotel and we ended up leaving and breaking the reservation. The second that we had an Uber to the new hotel, I kid you not, the sky cleared up. The sky just cleared up. We got to our new hotel, and it's a 5-star resort with just beautiful spanning pools, hot tubs, and just like the complete opposite experience. And the relief I felt in my body was tremendous. And I didn't like the hotel either, but she really took proactive initiative and changed it and was like, we don't need to settle for this. She made it happen, and we're at this hotel, and it ended up being the same amount because she had points. It just was so wild how it all divinely worked out. And we left the hotel once last night for dinner. We have beautiful breakfasts every morning. We sit out on the pool. I've just been really present and just really freaking grateful. I really feel like seeing that hotel first helped me to tap into another level of gratitude for this experience in this space, and it reminded me of who I am. The thing that I love about travel and the relationship it has to manifestation is it's based on the same concept that if you have the idea of something, you have the means to make it happen. This really came true for me when I went on my first solo trip ever to Italy. And I remember on the plane, just this insane sensation of, what am I doing? Who do I think I am? I'm on this plane because I decided I wanted to go, and that's the only reason this trip even exists. Before I had worked on my self-image and my beliefs, part of the internal mind chatter that was going on was kind of like, who am I to do this? Is this unnecessary? Am I going to get there and just be by myself? What am I trying to do? Back at that point in time in my life, I had hesitations about still being single. And I really judged myself for not having a partner to share these experiences with. And for a really long time, that held me back from going on trips at all. It didn't feel possible for me. It didn't feel like I was worthy of spending that money on myself. I had credit card debt for a long time that was lingering, and I really judged myself and felt shame around that, and I never felt worthy. And it was like one of those things like, oh, when I pay this off, maybe I can go. That kind of justification and reasoning. But what really shifted my energy and my perspective was when I was invited to go to a bachelorette party. And the ticket was like $2,000. I didn't end up going. It was right around the time when my grandma died. And at the end of the day, I had to choose myself. I had a flight credit, and I couldn't find anybody to go on a big trip with me. And it was going to expire. So I just decided to take the plunge and go to Italy by myself. I would have never felt like that was something I could just spend my money on, even though it was something I valued and I studied abroad in college. And it was just a really positive experience. I hadn't left the country for over 10 years. So there was a incongruence between the way that I viewed myself and the way that I was living. Fast forward, if you've been following along with my journey, I've gone to 7 countries solo. I'm 33, so I guess in the last 3 years, I've gone to 7 countries solo. Travel just became part of my life and part of my brand and part of who I am. So much so that whenever my lease came due, it felt more expansive for me to create that freedom in my life. Travel is often equated with a value of freedom. So it was more expansive and valuable for me just to pause and really evaluate what came next. So these past few months, I've been doing a tremendous amount of travel. I went to Athens, I went to Amsterdam, Paris. It just feels like it's opened up this world where I can just take my time with my trips, and there's nothing really tying me down or holding me back, and I can just say yes to things. And this trip to Miami has been so expansive. We are back. We are out of the robe. We are dressed for the day. Travel has always been my favorite catalyst for manifestation because you are literally changing all of your physical senses. We've talked a lot about the relationship between the way that you perceive the world and your experiences of the world through the 5 senses. And so when you travel, you are experiencing an energetic shower. You are experiencing different sounds. If you're traveling internationally, you're experiencing different currencies, you're experiencing different languages, you're experiencing different foods, different times that you're waking up. It's completely shifting the energy and getting you out of your day-to-day, which is such an expansive place to be. Whenever I'm going on a trip, I make sure the entire experience from getting on the plane to getting off the plane is an incubator for the new version of myself that I'm looking to step into. I always set an intention for every trip that I take. It's obviously going to be different if I'm going on a trip with friends and family versus if I'm going on a solo trip. I feel like solo trips are the ultimate catalyst for change if you're really looking for that rapid growth. I cannot highly recommend a solo trip enough. But if you're with your friends and your family, you can still do this and you can still experience the same effects. So when I went on this trip, for example, my intention was just to be so present. My intention was to come back from this change, but my intention was to just make this a really memorable experience and to just show up as my authentic, abundant self. That's basically the premise of the intentions that I set. I didn't overthink it too much. I didn't set an intention to do too much work. And that was where I came into this space. Every single moment of this trip has just been so divinely guided, and it's really helped to illustrate just the power of manifesting through traveling. Whenever you're traveling, you're out of your comfort zone. You're doing different things. When I came to this hotel, it was so wild. I just went and ate breakfast and I just got a free breakfast. Everything was covered. It was just like the rewards kept coming. Every time we went to the pool, she got free drinks. All these like abundant things were happening. We were getting discounts. People were so nice to us. The most amazing experiences kept happening. And we just had that expectation. And this really highlights with manifestation, think about what you want to experience, not how it's going to happen. If I would have went on this trip and had an expectation of how it was going to go and what needed to happen and I needed to have this, it wouldn't have happened in the same way, and the gratitude also wouldn't be there. When you're looking to use travel as a catalyst for transformation and change, what's most important, first and foremost, is to create the vision for who you want to step into. It's you. Obviously, you are just stepping into a different version of yourself. But think about how you want to show up. How do you want to carry yourself? What do you want to wear on the plane? I always dress up when I'm on the plane. What do you want to do on the plane? Are you journaling? How are you using this time to intentionally step into and create the reality that you are actively desiring? This is like field research manifestation. Do you know what I mean? You're in the field manifesting. And just looking at every experience and taking these actions from this future version of you. Even when we were at the old hotel, even though it didn't align with the vision that my sister and I had for the trip, I was willing to make the most of it, but we were also able to take action in a way that shifted the circumstances immediately. So the second step of anchoring into any up level through traveling is releasing the how. Setting the intention and thinking about what you want to experience, not how. And in the process of doing that, it's making sure that you are just focused on being. That's like being the best version of you in whatever the circumstances are. You're not always going to be able to upgrade the bad hotel. You're not always going to be able to change, but how can you make the most of the situation when you're in it? How can you shift the energy? And sometimes your power does come from realizing that you are not stuck. My sister watched something online and it really stuck with me. We were in line at the Eras tour and there were all these lines and there was an open line. And she's like, if there's an open line, you can go to it. You have free will. If something doesn't feel aligned, you have permission to change it. You have autonomy over your life. You don't need to accept your unfavorable circumstances in a point where you're just suffering and struggling. That's not the way that it needs to feel, and that's not the way that it needs to go. When I was in that old hotel, I really started to tap into that headspace, and it was pretty dark there for a moment. I was like, wow, this is pretty horrible. Like, do I need to look up jobs? Am I doomed? Like, is this trying to tell me something? But it was like, we didn't need to accept and stay in that place. We could take control. You can tell when something's divine versus forced. So for some reason, every year in October, my sister and I end up manifesting a trip to Florida. And I've manifested trips in different ways. This time it was the Eras Tour concert, but in other times it's been like for work, I've just been here. And this was our third time coming to Florida, but it's always during my grandmother's birthday. And so I felt so connected and so guided and so connected to her. And just thinking about who she would be proud of me for becoming. Someone who takes the family further, someone who doesn't settle, and someone who has a vision and commits herself to happiness. My grandmother was the one who energetically influenced me to go to Italy. She passed, and that was a big reason I didn't end up going on the bachelorette trip, and I had the flight credit to go to Italy. And when I went to Italy, that's where my grandmother was from. That's where my family's from. She had never been on a plane. I just felt so connected to her on that trip. I went into a church that was completely in Italian. She was very religious, and I just cried and I just released the energy. And it was such a magical, special experience to feel like I had her there. Having this thread and having this energy just made me really realize that it's all bigger than just me. And that's a big part of this, is seeing how the world is positively impacted by you stepping into this higher energy for yourself. My third travel hack, and my favorite thing that I will always do when I'm travel manifesting, is photo shoots. My sister has a camera, so we did a photo shoot upstairs, and I was like, this new version of me was just completely unveiled. These pictures that we took were just so beautiful, and I just felt so beautiful, and I felt so expansive, and I was like, this looks like an advertisement for the hotel. When I saw that, I was like, this is me. This is who I'm becoming. This is who I already am. And it was just this moment of, we have these goals and we have these people that we want to become and these things that we want, and it's all in the future, but there's so much power in realizing you're already her now. You're already him now. You are already that ideal version now. It's just about remembering to be it in as many moments as possible, and that will help bridge your gap. I truly believe that the energetic circumstances of this trip and the energetic work that I've done on myself is why the trip unfolded the way that it did. Obviously, there's always going to be a logical explanation. So you can just be like, yeah, well, your sister stepped in and booked the trip and that's why it happened. And it's like, yes, but we could have also gotten in a huge fight at that hotel. We looked up flights to potentially go home that day. There's so many different ways that things can happen, but when you energetically position yourself for the best case scenario, that's what ends up happening. I said to her as we got to the hotel, I was like, I have a feeling this second part of the trip is going to be the best part of the trip. And I look back, and we are just going to remember this, where we just got everything we wanted. We went up to that pool deck, and it just felt like it was made for us. It felt like we just couldn't believe our luck and the way that we turned things around. Just opening your mind to the possibilities and realizing that you're never stuck. I look at when I went to Greece, I was going for a wedding, and there was only a pull-out sofa left for this wedding that I was in. And that didn't align with how I saw myself and who I wanted to be moving forward. And so I booked a separate hotel down the street. It didn't end up being inconvenient. And then when I saw how inconvenient taxis were, I ended up booking a car. It's about being willing to take action to change your circumstances when applicable and not forcing anything. I'm not saying if you go to a hotel and it's not nice to book something that's outside of your means and doesn't feel expansive. I'm saying to open yourself up to possibilities and look at okay, this is going to be a story along my path. This is going to be something that I talk about later. And I just feel so much appreciation and gratitude for this hotel room, for this experience, for this trip with my sister. I just looked at everything through a lens of gratitude. I looked at everything through a lens of becoming. This trip felt like it was alchemizing and pulling this new version of myself. I think if I completely looked at it logically, I might not have gone on this trip, because I would have thought about okay, I've already seen Taylor, could I use that money for something else? I could have logicked my way out of going on this, but I feel so expansive. I feel so expanded as a result on going this. Obviously, Taylor Swift's not a personal development thing. Taylor Swift's not an investment, but it was an experience that I'll remember forever. And seeing her, it was so special. And to share those experiences, and when I think about what my vision for my life is, it's where I can just be fully present with whatever I'm doing and whoever I'm with. If I'm with family, I'm with family. If I'm working, I'm working. If I'm with clients, I'm with clients. And isn't that what it's all about? Where I was able to sneak away and do work and create content, and even the things that I was doing with my sister fed into the content I was creating. One of these times I'm going to get her on the podcast and we'll recount the story, but it was just so magical and it was so beautiful. And you have so much more power energetically than you might even realize. And if you're looking to tap into this, if you're looking to use travel as a means to create the new life you've always been destined for, I highly suggest checking out that ultimate travel bundle that I mentioned. It includes information on astrocartography. It includes information and energetic exercises where you can meditate and in your mind's eye start to connect to the next place that you're being drawn towards in a solo trip. And this isn't just as matter of me being like, okay, just book the flight. It's that simple. It's a mental block. This is an energetic game, and this will change the way that you show up in your life. If I look at what has had the most powerful impact on who I've become and how I've stepped up to this new version of myself and this new life, it's really been being willing to take those leaps, to go on those trips, to take the actions without knowing how it was going to turn out. I want to share one of my favorite manifestation stories from traveling, and this was when I went to Italy. I went to Italy, I mentioned before, this was the most life-changing experience of my life, was this solo trip. And I had no idea how I was going to pay for Italy. Italy cost me about $8,000 when all was said and done. Between flights and hotels and the way that I did it, it was about $8,000. The shopping. And I prayed in my journal to the universe. I always talk to God, the universe in my journal, and I just wrote, if it's safe to believe in myself, show me. Like, I want this trip to be paid for. And at the time, I just put it on a credit card. Less than 2 weeks later, I came back and I got an unexpected commission check for $20,000. And it completely not only covered the trip, but it paid off all of my debt. And in that moment, I knew it was safe to trust myself. And a few months later, I moved to New York, and it created an entirely new foundation for me. But each leap of faith was so scary in the unfolding. Getting on the plane and not knowing anyone on the other side is so scary. Going to Colombia and having people tell me, don't get beheaded. That's what my boss at the time had said. Scary. Having people say that it's not safe for women to travel by themselves. Scary. And you need to do what feels safe and comfortable for you, but at the same time, if you're feeling called to something and drawn to something, you've got to believe that there's something behind that desire. There's a version of you that's waiting to unfold that can't unfold without this experience. Even one perspective shift, one idea has the ability to change the entire trajectory of your life. Being willing to put yourself out of your comfort zone for the sake of growth and believing that things can change, believing that things can get better, believing that it's safe to trust yourself. All of your expansion and growth lies behind these shifts. So I would love to have you in the Ultimate Travel Bundle. I am also enrolling private coaching clients. I would love to work with you hands-on, one-on-one, to help you create the life and just the destiny of your dreams, to help you step into this fully self-actualized version of yourself who is present and is just in a healthy relationship, creates meaningful purpose, spends time intentionally, just shows up for yourself. That's what life is about, and it would be my honor to help guide and facilitate you through this. If you are interested, please set up a discovery call with me. I'll be sending out a survey with a discovery call to determine if it's a match, but this is your time. The time is now. So I love you. I hope you use this as a catalyst to transform and you start thinking about where you're going next and what you're going to do to your up level. I love you so much. Thank you for listening to Princess Interrupted.